Well, here we are on this Monday, the 13th of May. Just moving right along here as we get through spring, and we've got uh, the next round of potential showers and some gloom and doom to deal with in the northeast of the mid-Atlantic states. Got heavy rains in the uh, coastal deep south, and some thunderstorms and some severe weather going on tonight. We'll be talking about that. Look ahead to the rest of the week and the long range. Where else do you get all this weather information? Well, you get it right here on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow, the revolutionary Tempest weather system. You can run it on your mobile device, easy to install, and you can join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is pinned in the description of this podcast. If you purchase this or anything else from the Tempest website, do by all means use the coupon code SPRING 2024 because there is a financial benefit for you if you do. You get,
10% off.
yes. So,
Yes.
hi to everybody on the chat board tonight. Hope everyone had a very good Monday. And for those of you who are just watching in the background and not part of the conversation, you're certainly welcome to join in. We welcome you too. And remember that the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast is on Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. The occasional Friday and Saturday when there are storms around. And of course, we would let you know when that is the case. Be sure to turn your notifications on so you don't miss us. And if you like the show, by all means, please show us that by hitting the like button. So last night, the geomagnetic thing.
Flop.
Well, yeah, I mean it was less than advertised, I guess.
Well, the problem was, if you were hoping for Northern Lights display, is that and it was the most potent, ironically, the most potent solar flare of the lot. But the sunspot is now just getting ready to move off of the disk of the sun. The sun rotates about every 25 or 26 days, and this monstrous spot is now getting ready to disappear beyond the western limb of the sun. So the surge of subatomic material that was shot out from this flare on Friday night did not hit the Earth squarely. It actually may have just sideswiped us. So most of the good stuff missed us. And the only ones who maybe saw anything of significance were those who lived up in the central and northern sections of Canada and Alaska. So we didn't see anything. However, this sunspot, if it holds together and continues to spew flares, will be back at the end of May. As I said, the sun turns on an axis every 25 or 26 days. So this sunspot will disappear now beyond the rim of the sun and be coming back around on the eastern edge probably by the end of May. And if it's still in reasonably good shape, we may have a go at strong flares and maybe aurora borealis early in June. We'll have to wait and see.
Okay, so I will write this down. End of May, early June, cloudy across the northeast and northern mid-Atlantic states.
Probably. Hey, there's something else we have to worry about. Here we go again, Joe. Wildfire smoke plume extent and density showing up once again, crazy and in not a very good way. Wildfires in Canada have erupted, fueled by warm, very dry conditions, just like they did at this time last year, and are already sending smoke into the upper Midwest, where the air quality is tanking, believe it or not. Code
Yeah.
red air quality signifying unhealthy levels of smoke pollution in Minnesota and Wisconsin and parts of southwestern Canada have seen. I don't know what code purple is, but it's the worst level that they've had in quite some time. So I hate to say it. If you remember what it was like last year in late spring and early summer with the smoke from our dear friends up in Canada, it looks like we may be seeing a repeat once again already in the middle part of May.
Lack of snowpack up there didn't help this winter.
Yes, absolutely.
I
Well,
mean, it didn't help with the situation that's getting underway now. So of course we'll have to beware the northwest flow going forward because the flow sets up from northern Canada down into southeastward to the Great Lakes and Northeast. You know where that smoke is going.
Yes, I know. What used to be a flow in the summertime that we would look forward to getting, a northwest flow, now it seems that if this is going to be a repeat performance, if this is going to be an ongoing pattern for the summertime, northwest flow is not what you want because it will bring in all of that schmutz from our friends in Western Canada.
Well, I had a gloom and doom day here in North Georgia. Uh, a little bit of light rain, not a lot, didn't last very long, but it was, that low overcast all day long, no sun, uh, temperatures that really didn't get much above 54 or 55 all day long. In fact, I think I woke up this morning, it was 52, and it just kind of sat there all day. Uh, Good day to do yard work, of which I didn't do a lot of, but I did get to do some. But uh, yeah, just not a nice day up here today. So anyway, we've got some severe weather across the Gulf states tonight, which we're going to take a look at. And if we start off with our watches and warnings map, it's a little bit busy across the south. You've got severe thunderstorm watches up for parts of South Texas. You still have flood watches that, although there are fewer counties under flood watches now, in parts of East Texas, across much of southern Louisiana, there's a severe thunderstorm watch up also across all of southern Louisiana, and a whole bunch of flash flood warnings that are up as well. All those red boxes you see across the lower part of that state. And the flood watches extend east to the Florida Panhandle. You mentioned the smoke, so I'm guessing that the gray that we see here is an air quality alert that is up for parts of southern Minnesota. And
Yeah, it's probably, yeah,
yes, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency.
yeah.
Okay. So, in other words, their job is to make pollution or find pollution and then control it. Has issued an air quality alert for fine particles solute pollution. The air quality index is expected to reach the red or unhealthy category, southern Minnesota. Impacts, Joe, include um, some members of the general public may experience health effects. Sensitive groups, such as people with lung disease, including asthma, heart disease, children, and older adults, could experience health effects. They give additional details too. They say heavy smoke will linger across southern Minnesota through the day on Monday. This band of smoke will slowly drift to the south throughout the day, and air quality will begin improving from north to south within the alert area. Air quality should improve across southern Minnesota by the end of the day. So says the Pollution Control Center in Minnesota, and also in Wisconsin. We have the same issue. Johnny Quest bangs the tip jar tonight. Thank you, Johnny Quest. He said he had a low of 29. And as luck would have it, some clouds with some wind. If not, it would have been lower with a big freeze. Yeah, it got some parts of the Appalachians where it cleared out last night did get pretty cold. But much of the rest of the country right now is on the quiet side. So again, the focus tonight is right along the immediate Gulf Coast. As we check out the satellite, you will certainly look like you had a fairly decent day across New England down into Northern Virginia. Not a whole lot of clouds there.
It started off very nice up my way with lots of sunshine. And a bit midday, I said, "Well, it's starting to cloud up a little bit." And then during the afternoon, I was doing some yard work too, Joe, during the 2 to almost 5 o'clock hour. And toward the latter part of that stretch, I felt a drop on my head. I said, Was that a raindrop?" And then there were two or three more drops, and then finally it was like maybe a 4 minute brief shower. I checked the radar afterwards and found that there was a renegade, an isolated rain shower that for the most part was either over the Bronx or Westchester, rapidly moved on by, and the northern edge of that was right over my property, and that's what I felt for a few minutes again during the mid-afternoon period today. No big deal. Didn't register anything in the rain gauge, but still, and if you looked at the entire tri-state area within like 75 miles of Midtown Manhattan on the radar, this was like one lone little precipitation cell that came whirling on through. Everybody else stayed dry. There was a lot more in the way of cloud cover during the latter part of the afternoon. And it looks like tonight it'll be dry for the most part, but it'll also be rather cloudy. Tomorrow, clouds may break and we'll get into a bit of sun, then maybe a late day shower tomorrow, then a better chance of getting wet here tomorrow night, late especially. And Wednesday looks like the clink of the week. We have the pick of the week when it's beautiful, but if you don't like wet weather, looks like Wednesday's going to be the day when we're going to get wet. It looks like
Yeah.
I'd say, no, I mean, we're not going to get, flooding rains, but I'd say anywhere from a quarter to maybe a half an inch overall on Wednesday. But
Nuisance stuff.
kind of day you want to be outside.
Nuisance stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, a lot of lightning strikes in Louisiana, in southern Louisiana. You can see the satellite with the lightning strikes here. Very, very active in that part of the country. Also, some lightning strikes on the Florida Big Bend. Some of those thunderstorms make the turn and go east and east southeast along the Florida Big Bend. We've got some scattered lightning strikes in parts of Illinois and southeast Iowa. And of course, you see the rotation that is back in eastern Kansas. That is the upper low that is driving all of this and a developing surface low that goes with it. And this one is going to move pretty much straight east. Actually, the center is probably going to die out and redevelop somewhere in eastern North Carolina and then head offshore. So, of course, that's going to set up the onshore flow for Tuesday night, particularly on Wednesday, as we've got this northerly flow across southern Canada, the Great Lakes, and into New England, and that's preventing this system from taking a track up toward the Great Lakes, say, with a trailing cold front. So then it would be a whole different type of setup. So, but not the case. We've got everything being forced further south than normal. Also seeing some scattered storms up in the northern Rockies. And most of the west is actually quite nice for a change. Radar uh, in the Gulf Coast, and we've got a bunch of severe thunderstorm warnings up in South Texas around Corpus Christi and in areas to the west. You can see also a bunch of severe thunderstorm warnings in south central Louisiana moving eastward, and a whole slew of flash flood warnings up to the west of that into southwest Louisiana and southeast Texas. Then the rain lightens up a bit as you head through southern Mississippi and into the Florida Panhandle, only to pick up with some showers and thunderstorms again along the Florida Big Bend, not too far northwest of Tampa Bay, and they continue to move to the east southeast. Not much on the radar in the northeast, at least near the coast. There's actually some shower activity going on east of I-81 and north of the Pennsylvania New York state line, going up through north central New York and moving eastward. Also, some showers in northeast New York and on the border of Maine and Canada. Most of those on the Canada side, also on the Canada side of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. We've got an east-west band of showers moving along, and you can see some of the heavier downpours around Chicago, and actually not quite to Milwaukee, but close. There's even a flash flood warning that's up north of Chicago there, and there's some thunderstorms embedded in that. The rotation of the upper low, you can tell by the radar bands that something is circulating somewhere around a low near Kansas City at the moment. And we've got these speckles of showers and a few thunderstorms up and down the Rockies from south to north and into the western plains. And much of the west coast, as we said, is on the dry side. So our friends at the Storm Prediction Center with a slight to enhance risk tonight in Texas and Louisiana. That is playing out, and then it narrows to the Florida Panhandle, where we have a slight risk there. And it looks like we have a small tornado watch that may have just gone up. Hold on, I'm checking here. No, there was a little red box that appeared near the Florida coast, and then suddenly it was gone. So I guess it was just some some noise. But we've got several severe thunderstorm watches that were up. Now it looks like it's whittled down to three from Brownsville all the way to New Orleans. So that whole stretch there covered with a severe thunderstorm watch as of 7:51 p.m. Eastern time. Remember, if you're watching this later on tonight or even first thing tomorrow morning on a replay, all the satellite and radar data is dated. So as the severe weather stuff is, so be sure to go to weather.gov to your local National Weather Service forecast office to make sure you have the latest weather information. This is playing out, even though there's a 2 to 5% tornado risk across the Gulf Coast there. I really haven't seen much in the way of tornado warnings up. It's really more of a rain issue for them than anything else.
Basically, I think we're picking up from where we left off at the end of last week. Another threat of thunderstorms carrying maybe some damaging winds along the Gulf Coast. And of course, a week of deluge. This is, if you look at the weather maps, Joe, there's a stationary front which seems to be lining up with Interstate 10
Well,
across Texas.
let me bring up the soy. I'll bring up the soifus, and we can zoom in. There we go. Uh, so let's get down there. There it is. You have your surface map there, Joe, so you may now describe it.
Well, just saying that there's that stationary front which seems to be lining up very close to Interstate 10 down there in the Gulf coastal area, and the up in Texas, there's a river known as the Trinity River near the town or the city of Liberty, and that's going to stay at major flood stage all this week, never dropping below 30 feet because of all of the rain that they have and all the rain that they will have for this upcoming week. It's again this so long as that front remains in basically the same position, and since it is a stationary front, all it's going to do is just undulate back and forth for the next several days with waves of low pressure along it, waves of moisture along it, and waves of moderate to heavy rain moving along it. So, what else is new? If you're down in Texas or Louisiana, especially, and these were places that just a year ago were begging for rain because they had not had much in the way of rainfall. They were exceedingly dry, drought conditions, severe drought, and everybody's saying, "Oh, we need the rain. We need the rain." Be careful what you pray or hope for, because now nature has decided, yeah, here comes the rain, but it's going to be a lot more rain than what you need. Excessive rainfall, flooding rainfall, and well, what else can I tell you? That's the way it's going to be for a bit of a little while longer.
David Schwartz posting up some severe thunderstorm warnings and uh, there's a potential tornado warning there that was issued uh, near Baton Rouge in Louisiana. So, David, thank you for doing that. And I lived in southeast Louisiana for 3 years, and never did learn how to pronounce a lot of the towns uh, in southeast Louisiana. They tend to have a French bent to them, and I would think they were one way, and they wound up being another. Joe, speaking of rainfall on the WPC, the next 7 days across the now this is on top of what's already fallen, which in some cases has been quite a lot. We're talking about anywhere from 2 to as much as 5 to 7 inches. The highest amounts are right along the immediate coast from southern Mississippi and Alabama and the Florida Panhandle, and been going almost all the way to Jacksonville, but not quite. And inch and a half to 2 inch range, moving as far north as North Carolina and even into southern Virginia. The Northeast is mostly, again, this is 7 day rainfall, so this takes us to next Monday night. 7 day rainfall amounts in the Northeast. Generally a quarter to a half in coastal New England from Connecticut to Maine, but then you go up into northwestern Maine, northern Vermont, New Hampshire, upstate New York, and it's more like 3/4 of an inch to an inch and a half. Same from Long Island west across Pennsylvania down into Maryland. It's mostly 3/4 of an inch to about an inch or so. And back through the Ohio Valley, some patches of an inch and a half plus in the lower Ohio Valley. And that extends down into parts of southern Kansas and into Oklahoma. Back to SPC, as we take a look at day two, which is tomorrow, they've added a slight risk for southern Georgia, the Florida Panhandle, and North Florida, and a very small portion of southeast Alabama. Marginal risk to southern South Carolina and back through Tennessee. And this comes with an area of 2 to 5% tornado risk from extreme southeastern North Carolina, coastal South Carolina, southern Georgia. There's a 5% area from the Florida Panhandle into most of North Florida. So a little bit of a busy, severe weather day there. And if we go to day three, day three being Wednesday into Thursday, we have a marginal risk eastern North and South Carolina, central Florida, and northwest Texas. So for now, nothing beyond a marginal risk, and I don't think they had anything in the long range. Let me just give that one last check. No, no area for from Thursday right into next Monday, at least for the time being. So Joe, it's all. I just wonder with this upper air setup that we have right now, and I've got the GFS 500 millibar map. I just wonder what this would have meant if this were back in, say, January or February, because we got a low that a storm that's going to go from where a low developing low in Kansas and that upper low getting shoved straight east to off the New Jersey coast because you've got a west to east flow across southern Canada and New England, so it can't go north. I just wonder what this would have meant if this were in the wintertime.
One would have to wonder, Joe. And a lot of the snow and cold weather lovers, winter weather lovers are probably just shaking their head and saying, why couldn't this happen in January, February, even part of March? But here it is, mid May, and the pattern is finally set up perfectly. But of course, now too warm for the white stuff. And unfortunately, the only thing it does is keep temperatures below normal. And again, from time to time, we will be seeing precipitation in the form of rain and showers. And again, the clunker of the week this week looks to be Wednesdays. Tomorrow, not too bad, although we may finish out the day with a shower late. Wednesday looks wet. We might still have a leftover shower around on Thursday, and then hopefully we'll be able to finish out the week later Thursday into Friday with dry weather. And from my vantage point right now, looks like it's going to be a 50-50 weekend with wet, showery weather for Saturday and hopefully drying out with a bit of sunshine for Sunday.
Well, there's another short wave coming into Southern California, and then it goes into the plains, and the southern part of that sort of separates. And again, because you still have, a northerly flow right along the border states, there's an upper low here in southeastern Missouri. I kind of drew it as a half-ass E, but that is also going to get forts to the east and off the coast sometime Saturday night into early Sunday morning. So yeah, you're probably going to have a 50-50 weekend with Saturday not so good and Sunday perhaps a bit better. And then just kind of looking beyond that, because now we're into the week of May 20th, a deep upper low comes into Idaho and into the west. So this might be setting up for another one of these plain severe weather events early next week. We'll see how it plays. It's a fairly vigorous upper low there, but not a whole lot here in the east until part of that system. Uh, a lot of these Great Lakes, these Great Plains systems in the last month wound up going up into central Canada. This one is also going to get shoved to the east eventually. And if the timing is right on this, this will come on getaway day for the Memorial Day holiday weekend. And then we go into a ridge position. So yesterday's models were not really all that exciting about nice weather for the Memorial Day holiday weekend. And here we are a day later, and we're kind of maybe getting more of a positive look for the Labor Day holiday weekend, which of course means that tomorrow we'll go back to the negative look. But Again, it's early in the game, but you have to be careful. The fact that we've got this kind of pattern here set up for the rest of the, it seems like for the next 2 weeks, that if you time it right, maybe you could squeeze it. Get at least 2 out of 3 days of the holiday weekend. Okay. On the other hand, if you time it wrong, you could wind up with 2 of the 3 days being not so good for the holiday week.
Well, yeah, I'm not going to really make too much of a comment about this because we're talking about now 2 weeks, a little less than 2 weeks from now, and
I mean,
anything can
we're
happen.
all we're all we're all speculating here, of course.
Yeah, I mean, obviously. But we have said that the Memorial Day weekend has not been very good in terms of rain, in terms of good weather in recent years, and hopefully things will be a bit better this year. But no promises, at least not just yet.
Yeah, the GFS with the system for Tuesday night, Wednesday, most of the rain is mainly from southern New Jersey and Pennsylvania southward. It really doesn't produce a whole lot in areas from New York City northward. There's a little bit on the radar Wednesday morning, and then it just sort of dissipates. But you do have the onshore flow, so that at the very least will probably keep it cloudy if it's not raining. And you do have to watch to see if something doesn't rotate back westward from off the ocean, as the GFS does imply for Thursday. Believe it or not. So the thing for Thursday is if this low meanders off the coast and doesn't get out of the way, it may keep things a bit more uh, cloudy at the very least for certainly the start of Thursday. And you have to wonder whether there might be some rain near the coast Thursday morning if the GFS is right. As the day wears on, that low does sink southward. So Friday should be okay, fingers crossed. And then here comes Saturday with this, as you said, we have a weather front and a little wave with that. That Sunday morning is sitting in Chesapeake Bay with all sorts of rain over New Jersey and Long Island. I mean, this run of the GFS tends to wipe out just about all of the weekend. And then it dries out after that, only to be followed by another weather system for next Tuesday into Wednesday, and then another one for Thursday into Friday. And then Saturday looks, now we're in the Memorial Day weekend, dry for Sunday, and mostly dry for Monday. So that's on this run. Again, it's all speculative at this point, but my own personal feeling is that you've got a pattern that is you don't have strong systems. You've got these let's call them weakish systems that are going to be moving across. There's going to be one coming through every 2 days or so. If that's the parade that's being set up for the next 2 weeks, it's going to make it dicey for much of the time. So we'll just have to see how it all evolves in the coming 2 weeks.
As I mentioned yesterday, Climate Prediction Center is indicating that a surge of unseasonably cooler air from the plain states will be spreading across the northern tier of the United States. And by the time we get to the 27th of May, and that 27th of May is 2 weeks from today, we still should be in a near normal pattern, although most of the areas, northern areas from the Great Lakes on west, will be in a below normal weather regime. Also, I should point out also that Climate Prediction Center has everybody from the plain states on eastward to the Atlantic coast in above normal precipitation right on through the next 1 to 2 weeks. So the nice days are going to be few and far between, and the days with cloud cover and a threat of precipitation are going to be more frequent than not. And that with initially a bit of a mild temperature pattern, but again trending more toward cooler conditions toward the end of the month.
Now, we mentioned yesterday that beginning on the 15th, the Hurricane Center will begin issuing tropical weather outlooks. Excuse me. And in the Eastern Pacific, they actually wound up having to issue one today, Joe, believe it or not. They have a special, they had a special tropical weather outlook that was issued at 12:20 Pacific Daylight Time, so 3:20 p.m. And they say an area of low pressure is forecast to form along a trough several hundred miles to the south of the Gulf of Tehuantepec by the middle to latter portion of this week. Thereafter, some gradual development of the system is possible as the low begins to move slowly to the west northwest, remaining south of the coast of Mexico through early next week. And they have a 30% chance, at least when they put this special statement out at 3:30 this afternoon. They have a 30% chance, although they don't show it on the map. The map was issued at 1:20, was put up at 1:29 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. So that doesn't make any sense. They put a statement out at 12:20, and then they put a map out at 1:29, but they don't have anything on it other than to say the tropical cyclone. Oh, I see what. I'm sorry. That's because I have the 2 day. I forgot. We have to go to the 7 day. There it is. On the 7 day forecast, there it is. South of the coast of Mexico. That is the area of disturbed weather that they are watching. And I forget. Did they start them in the Atlantic too on May 15th, or is that still June 1st?
June 1st is the beginning of the tropical storm or
Right, but
hurricane.
didn't they start issuing outlooks a couple of years ago on starting in May 15th on the Atlantic
I
side?
believe I believe you're right, and that led to the speculation that perhaps one of these fine years, maybe this year, but it obviously is not going to happen, that they were thinking about moving the beginning of the hurricane season or tropical cyclone season for the Atlantic Basin up from June 1st to the 15th of May, because something like what, 6 out of the last 9 years, we've had tropical cyclones develop in May. So far, we're about halfway through the month. That has not happened in the Atlantic Basin, although, as you just pointed out, Joe, they are watching something down in the Pacific region. But yeah, that's it's. I think they'll begin tomorrow in the Atlantic Basin, giving you, however, a short update it's going to be on conditions in the Atlantic in preparation for the start of the hurricane or tropical cyclone season on June the 1st.
Let us now play Briller Jeopardy, shall we?
Surely.
And tonight's new topic is the opposite of the old topic. We have the 10 driest states.
No.
The
Oh, God.
10 driest states. Now, think about all the states that we've done in the last couple of weeks. We should be able to figure this one out. So it's the 10 driest states. And of course, the chat board is ready to participate. Chuck Cardillo kicks it off with Arizona, and Arizona is number 4. Number 4. Maggie P says Nevada, Colorado, and Montana. Nevada is number 1. Colorado is number 7. And Montana is number 6. And Anthony says New Mexico, and that's number 5. Number 5. Miss Blue Ocean says Utah, and that's number 2. Number 2. Mike Waterhouse says Wyoming, and that is number 3. So we've already got the first 7. So now we've got to get the last 3. Texas Christinapedia is not on the list. No, no. But Rich Rothmansky and Miss Blue Ocean, Idaho at number 9. Okay. And number 10, Vincent Croce, is South Dakota. Christinapedia also saying South Dakota. And I just want to make sure if I missed anybody else up here because we only have one state left. This is probably the fastest we've ever gone through this.
Did we mention
Anthony, what's that?
it was North Dakota mentioned?
Yes, Anthony and Jason Fox just mentioned, and Christinapedia now mentioned North Dakota. They are, that's number 8. So to recap, I went quick. Recap: number 10, South Dakota. Number 9, Idaho. Number 8, North Dakota. Number 7, Colorado. Number 6, Montana. Number 5, New Mexico. Number 4, Arizona. Number 3, Wyoming. Number 2, Utah. And number 1, Nevada. So those are the 10 driest states, Joe.
Wow.
You know,
Okay.
it's as we found trying to figure out some of those states in the West, it was tough because half the state has a very would have a very extremely dry climate, and half the state would have an extremely wet climate. We're talking about states like um, uh, Washington, Oregon, to some California, Texas. Texas is a big example of that because the western part of the state gets very little, and the eastern part of the state is in, near the Gulf of Mexico, gets deluged from time to time. So it's tough to figure out. But uh, none of those states appeared on this dry list. These are drier than those, so these are the driest.
All right. Well, on that note, I guess we'll close it down for tonight and be back again tomorrow at
No,
7:30.
no more, no geomagnetic stuff going on tonight. Correct?
That, that's out. That's forget about that. That's
Okay, so
wait,
that's all.
wait for the spot, the sun, the big sunspot to go around the back of the sun and return at the end of the month. If it's still as robust as it has been in recent days, then maybe we'll have more to look forward to in terms of Northern Lights early in June. We'll see.
Thank you for the 46 likes tonight. This time of year, the weather interest is not really all that high, but that's understandable. And Johnny Quest for hitting super chat. Thank you for hitting the tip jar. Always appreciated. The Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system. Join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is pinned to the descriptor to this podcast. Use the coupon code SPRING 2024 because if you do, you will get.
10% off.
And big hello to those of you who watch us who watch this podcast or listen to this podcast on Spotify. Uh, it, I've got it figured out now so that we can actually get the podcast up early. So if you don't watch it live on YouTube, it'll be on Spotify probably within the hour, hopefully before 9 p.m. Eastern time. So say good night, Joe.
Good night, Joe.
Good night, Joe. Good night.
Night.